When he walked into my bedroom that night, he wasn't the kind, respectful man my daughter loved. No, he was a stranger, a monster hiding behind a gentleman's smile. Hello, my dear friends. This is Grandma Matilda speaking from my little home in Savannah, Georgia. I'm 78 years old now, and today I want to share with you a story I've kept buried for almost 40 years, a story of love, heartbreak, betrayal, and survival. Before I begin, why don't you tell me in the comments, how many children or grandchildren do you have? I love knowing who's watching. And please, if this story touches you, like this video and subscribe. It helps more than you know. I was born in 1947 in Cape May, New Jersey, a quiet little coastal town where time moves slowly, and everyone knew each other. My father, Sebastian, was a fisherman. My mother, Constance, made preserves and raised 5 children. I was the youngest. Our life was simple. We didn't have much, but we had each other. I still remember the smell of apple butter bubbling in that copper pot as Mama stirred it for hours. She always said, "Matilda, the secret isn't the recipe. It's the love you put into it." And she was right. I left school after 4th grade. Like many girls back then, "Why study more?" they'd say. "Soon you'll be married." And at 15, I was already helping Mama sell preserves and making crafts out of seashells I'd collect on the beach. It was there, near the old church square, that I met Anthony. He wasn't from Cape May, he was from Philadelphia, a technician working on installing electric lines in our town. Yes, back then, we still had places in America without electricity. Anthony was different from the boys I knew. He was older, 25, with a calm voice and stories about cities I couldn't even imagine. I was just a small town girl. He made me feel like I mattered. We fell in love fast, too fast, my parents said, but I believed in him. I'd sneak out at night barefoot on the sand to meet him under the stars. It was on one of those nights that I gave him my heart and my body. When he left, he promised to return, and he did. When I found out I was pregnant, the town whispered behind my back. My father nearly threw me out. But Anthony came back. He asked for my hand. We married in a small ceremony with my belly just starting to show. We moved into a little rented house near the harbor. It wasn't much, 2 rooms, peeling paint, and a drafty roof. But it was ours. Our daughter Louise was born in January 1965, a difficult home birth with a midwife. When I held her, I knew my life would never be the same. The early years were hard. Anthony worked long hours. I sold preserves, sewed crafts, and raised Louise. We dreamed of owning a home someday. When Louise turned 7, we finally did. A modest house on the edge of town. Anthony built most of it with his own hands. A small garden, a tiny outdoor kitchen for my preserves. Life was simple, but it was good. Louise was bright, always asking questions. "Mom, why is the sky blue? Where does the sun sleep at night?" Anthony and I agreed. She would study. She would go further than we ever could. And she did. At 18, she was accepted into university in Philadelphia. I was proud and heartbroken. She was my baby and she was leaving. But that's how life goes. Children grow up and parents stay behind, cheering from afar. In her final year of college, Louise brought home Robert, a man who from the start made something in my gut twist. He was charming, polished, a university professor, 15 years older than Louise. Anthony liked him, said he was serious, stable, a provider. But I saw something else, something colder, something hiding behind his polite smile. Still, I said nothing. Louise was in love. They married in our backyard, under the trees Anthony had planted, with tables covered in preserves I'd made myself. It should have been a happy ending. They moved back to Philadelphia. He kept teaching. She began work as an elementary school teacher. Anthony and I returned to our quiet routines, just the two of us again. Then, one Sunday morning in July 1989, my world shattered. Anthony kissed me on the forehead before heading out to fish with friends. "I'll be back before lunch," he said. That was the last time I saw him alive. He had a heart attack on the boat. When they knocked on my door to tell me, I collapsed. My world collapsed. Anthony, my first love, my only love, my safe harbor, was gone. Louise arrived that night, sobbing, Robert beside her. "Come live with us," she begged. But I couldn't leave. That house held too many memories. His scent was still in the sheets. I had to stay, to grieve in my own time. Robert agreed. Let her be, he said. She needs space. I didn't know then what darkness was waiting behind those kind eyes. I thought I had faced the worst life could offer, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. After Anthony died, I thought the hardest part would be the loneliness, the silence in the house, the empty chair across from me. But I was wrong. What came next shattered something much deeper. 3 months had passed. I was still waking up each morning, expecting to hear Anthony's footsteps on the porch, and remembering all over again that he was gone. Then one morning, there was a knock on my door. It was Robert. Louise hadn't come with him. Too busy grading papers, he said, smiling. But I took a few days off. Thought I'd check on you. I was confused. Why was he here, alone? Still, I told myself he was just being kind. My son-in-law, after all. Maybe he was just trying to help. At first, everything seemed normal. He explored the town by day, said he was connecting with Anthony's memory. But then, the comments started. You keep yourself well for your age, Mrs. Matilda. That dress suits you. You're very appetizing. I laughed them off, changed the subject, went to bed early, told myself I was imagining things, that he was just awkward, but my instincts knew better. 3 nights in, he brought wine. Let's toast, he said, pouring 2 glasses, to life, to healing. I wasn't a drinker, but I took a small glass out of politeness. The first sip was bitter. The second made my vision blur. The third, I don't even remember taking it. All I know is my body became heavy, my limbs numb, my voice slurred. I mumbled, I think I need to lie down. That's when he put his arm around my waist, but it didn't feel like help. It felt like a trap. The rest comes in broken flashes, being carried, my body not responding, his weight pressing down on me, my own bedroom, the one I had shared with Anthony, turning into a prison. I whispered, no, but it came out like a breath. He didn't stop. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already high. My body was in pain, my sheets stained with blood, my mouth split, my eyes swollen. He was gone, and I was broken. I dragged myself to the bathroom, barely able to walk. The mirror didn't show me Matilda. It showed a battered, violated stranger, finger marks on my neck, bruises on my thighs. A shame so heavy I thought it would crush me. I didn't know what to do. The police? Who would believe me? A 42-year-old widow against a respected university professor? Call Louise? How could I destroy her life too? That night the phone rang. It was Louise. Mom, are you okay? Robert said you were fine when he left. I froze. Fine. That's what he said. I'm sick, I croaked. A bad flu. Been in bed all day. I couldn't say it. Not yet. The next day, I called her back. Come alone, please. When she arrived, her smile vanished the moment she saw my face. Mom, what happened? Were you attacked? I broke down. I told her everything. The wine, the confusion, the bedroom, the pain. I expected disbelief, denial. What I didn't expect was silence. Are you sure, Mom? She whispered. Couldn't it have been a nightmare? The wine? It hurt. But I understood. She was clinging to the idea that her husband couldn't be a monster. I took her hands, showed her my bruises. I'm sure I know what he did. She stood up, walked in circles, cried, screamed, and then she looked at me, with eyes full of fire. We're going to the police, she said. Now. My daughter believed me, and together we stepped into a battle that would test us like nothing ever had. When you've lived in a town your whole life, you believe it will protect you. But when I stepped forward to report what Robert had done, I learned something bitter. Sometimes the place you call home turns its back on you. Louise took me straight to the hospital, the bruises, the injuries, the blood, all documented by a kind doctor in Atlantic City who looked me in the eye and said, You have courage. Most women never report it. But the hardest part wasn't the physical exam, it was retelling the nightmare, every detail, again and again, while trying not to fall apart. From there, we went to the police in Cape May. The sheriff glanced at me, then at the report. "You're accusing your daughter's husband of rape?" he said, like it was the punchline to a joke. "Yes," I said. "I have medical evidence." He didn't read the report, just skimmed. Then he leaned back in his chair and asked, "Are you sure this isn't a misunderstanding?" A misunderstanding. That word stabbed deeper than the bruises. When Louise tried to call Robert, he was gone. Neighbors said he packed up and left town in a rush, said he had a family emergency in Boston. But we knew he was running. The days that followed were a blur of phone calls, court forms, and disbelief. Some police officers were supportive, others, cold, suspicious. At the grocery store, two women whispered behind me, "That's her, the one who accused her son-in-law. She probably made a move on him and regretted it." I left my groceries and ran out the door, gasping for air like I was drowning. I had lived in Cape May my whole life. These were people who bought my preserves, attended church with me, who knew Anthony. But when I needed them most, their glances turned sharp. Their whispers turned cruel. Louise saw the toll it was taking. "You're not safe here anymore, Mom," she said. "Let's leave, start over, fight the case from a distance." I hesitated. Leave Cape May, leave Anthony. But then I looked at my daughter, the strength in her eyes, and I knew she was right. We packed everything, sold the house, the one Anthony built with his hands, for less than it was worth. I took only what I couldn't bear to leave behind, his fishing hat, a framed photo, and the copper pot my mother used to make apple butter. We found a place in Savannah, Georgia, a city full of color, culture, and cobblestone streets that reminded me a little of home, without the pain. It was a new beginning. Louise got a teaching job. I started selling preserves again, but the shadow of Robert still loomed. We traveled back to Cape May for hearings. 3 times that year, each trip reopened the wound. But then, everything changed. In the courthouse waiting room, a young woman approached us, nervous, pale. "My name is Teresa," she said. "I was his student. He did it to me, too." Our jaws dropped, and she wasn't the last. 2 more women, a colleague and a neighbor, came forward. Different stories, same pattern: drinks, dizziness, waking up hurt and confused. It wasn't just me. Robert was a predator. And now the truth was catching up to him. It wasn't just my word anymore, it was a chorus. And together, we were about to shatter the silence. The day they told us Robert had been found, I didn't know whether to cry or breathe again. He had fled the country, but even the shadows have limits. August 1991. We got a call from the prosecutor. Robert had been arrested in Mexico, trying to board a flight with fake documents. They were extraditing him back to the U.S. Finally, after nearly 2 years of silence, shame, and struggle, he would face justice. But justice, my dears, is not quick, and it is never gentle. January 1992. The courtroom in Cape May was packed. Local reporters, support groups, people who once whispered behind our backs now sat quietly, listening. I took the stand. So did Teresa and the other women. We told our truths, again, in front of strangers, lawyers, and worst of all, him. Robert sat there in a crisp suit, clean-shaven, looking calm, as if he hadn't destroyed lives. His lawyer tried to tear us down. She was lonely. She invited it. She made it up. But we held firm, because this time, I wasn't alone. 15 years, that's what the judge gave him. 15 years in prison for aggravated rape, abuse of trust, and premeditation. When the sentence was read aloud, I felt something break, not joy, not relief, something deeper, like a chain snapping inside me. That night, Louise and I returned to our hotel. We sat on the balcony with a bottle of wine, not to forget, but to reclaim. That drink, once used to drug me, now became a symbol of strength. We toasted quietly, to survival, to truth, to justice. Back in Savannah, the air felt warmer, softer. My little store, Matilda's Sweets, was finally thriving. Locals came for lemon squares, Tourists left with jars of peach cobbler jam. And I found peace in the rhythm of boiling sugar, slicing fruit, tying ribbons. Louise was flourishing too, promoted at the school, smiling more, and soon something new began to bloom in her life. A history teacher named John, with gentle eyes, and a daughter named Clara. We had survived the storm, but what we didn't know was that life still had joy to offer, and love, even after everything, would find its way back to us. After you've been shattered, the world feels fragile, but piece by piece we rebuilt, not the life we had, but a life that was stronger, wiser, and full of love. Savannah was no longer just a refuge. It became home. Louise dove into her work as an educator. The children adored her. The parents trusted her. The principal once said, "She's not just a teacher, she's a light." In my little sweet shop, it blossomed. Locals loved the preserves. Tourists came in droves. Soon I couldn't keep up on my own, so I hired two wonderful women, Janet and Connie. We became a team, three women in aprons, three pasts, one dream to bring sweetness to others. Then came John, a widowed history teacher with kind eyes and a little girl named Clara. Louise was cautious, rightfully so, but I saw something in her, a glow I hadn't seen since before Robert. When I met John, I watched him closely. Was he gentle? Was he honest? Did he respect her? Yes, yes, and yes. And Clara, oh, Clara. She was a sunbeam in a little blue dress. She called me Grandma Matilda before any papers made it official, and when she asked if she could help make preserves, my heart melted. She was the granddaughter I never knew I needed. February 1996. Louise and John married in a simple ceremony under the Georgia sky. Clara carried the rings. I made all the sweets. Neighbors, students, friends, everyone came. There were no whispers, no shadows, only light. That night, I stood on the porch with a glass of sweet tea, watching them dance under the fairy lights. I whispered to the stars, "Anthony, she's safe now. She's finally safe." 1997, Louise became pregnant. 1998, my first biological grandson. Michael was born, and let me tell you, when that boy smiled, it was like St. Anthony all over again. Clara, now my granddaughter in every way, helped at the shop after school. "Grandma, I'm going to take over your store someday," she'd say, "and I'll make even better preserves." I smiled, but inside I thought, she just might. I never imagined I would live to see such peace, but somehow life, after taking so much, gave back more than I could have dreamed. Time, it slips through your fingers like sugar through a sieve. One day, you're a young girl stirring apple butter with your mama, and the next, you're 78 years old, sitting on your porch, watching your great-grandchildren chase fireflies. The store, Matilda's Sweets, became a Savannah staple. Clara, my granddaughter of the heart, took over most of the business in her 30s. She introduced new recipes, expanded into online orders, and even got featured in a food magazine. "None of this would exist without Grandma," she always says in interviews. And every time I hear that, I tear up. Louise retired recently. John still teaches history. They sit on the porch most mornings now, sipping coffee, finishing each other's sentences. And Michael, my grandson, he became a lawyer, specialized in women's rights cases. "Because of you, Grandma," he told me once, "so women like you never have to go through what you did, not without justice." I've held my great-grandchildren in my arms. Anthony and Matilda, Clara's twins, named after me and my husband. And little Louise Ham, Michael's daughter, 3 generations after the storm. The sun is still rising. In 2001, we got word that Robert died in prison, a heart attack. The same thing that took my Anthony, but in such different ways. I didn't feel anger or satisfaction, just closure, a door that could finally close. Because by then, Robert had no power over me. His chapter had ended long ago, and mine kept going. Now each morning, I sit on my porch. the same one I painted light yellow after we arrived in Savannah. I sip tea, watch the sun stretch over the river, listen to the birds, and I think, not about the horror, but about everything we built after, the strength it took, the love we rediscovered, the generations that rose from ashes. If you're watching this and carrying your own pain, if someone's broken you, silenced you, made you feel small, listen to me, honey. You are not your scars. You are what you do with them. And you have more strength than you think. Clara teaching her daughter how to stir jam. Louise placing flowers at Anthony's photo. Michael walking out of a courthouse, papers in hand. Grandma Matilda on the porch, smiling at the horizon. I lost almost everything. But I gained something deeper, a life rebuilt, a family restored, a legacy of truth, sweetness, and strength. If this story touched your heart, leave a like, subscribe, and remember, sometimes the hardest stories are the ones we need to hear most.